Happy webinar day, everybody, and welcome to our first webinar of 2020. This is also mine and Chris's first ever webinar together, so we're doubly excited for this one. My name is Mimi. I'm the event coordinator here at Charity Digital. You may have seen my name on numerous emails about all our Charity Digital events, and now you can put a voice to the name. Usually I'm the one behind the headphones, making sure that everyone is working for our listeners, but today I'm your very nervous host, and we'll be making sure that all your questions get asked. For those of you who have become regulars to our webinar scene, welcome back. And for those who are just starting your journey with us, I hope it kicks off to a great start. We at Charity Digital have certainly started 2020 with a bang and are very excited with what's to come. Hopefully you've already heard, but if not, I'm here to remind you. We're hosting our Be More Digital conference on the 5th of March at Olympia Conference Centre. This is our second year running this conference, and this year we have gone bigger and better. We are hoping to release a close to full agenda next week, exploring the different themes throughout the day, covering leadership, growth, data, and service delivery. So those of you who are yet to purchase your tickets, then go ahead and get them because you don't want to miss it. Enough about us, let's get on to what today is about. Chris, Charity Digital's very own marketing manager, will be kicking off the 2020 webinar programme with a look at the top digital trends. But before I hand over to Chris, I'd like to remind everyone that we'll be hosting a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. You can submit your questions throughout the webinar just by clicking the Q&A button on your screen. This could be located at the top or the bottom, depending on your device. And if you're having any difficulties throughout the webinar, just send us a message in the chat. If we happen to run out of time before your questions are asked, don't worry. I'll keep hold of Chris a little longer offline and share these with you with the recording next week. So, Chris, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mimi. Absolutely nothing to be nervous about, you see. No, it is actually a lot different being on this side of the webinar fence. But hey, we'll give it a go. I do, however, have a newfound sense of empathy for all those partners that we do drag and put in front of the microphone. So we'll give, like I said, we'll give it a go. But please do be kind to us. It was great to see that poll come in there. It was good to see a good amount. Well, what we're looking at, 11 people who are, either bought their ticket or made that promise to buy their ticket today, and we will be checking up on you. So bear that in mind. And to those who haven't, or who responded no comment, we'll not put you on the blacklist just yet. But we hope, in the next few weeks when we launch the full agenda, we'll be able to sway you to the light side. We do still have our travel bursary in play at the minute. So charities can take advantage of that and get up to £250 off to be able to make the conference. So please take advantage of that while you can. Anyways, so before we get started today, I thought, seeing as like you're quite used to hearing my voice now if you've been to a few of these webinars, I thought I'd share a little bit about myself first. So, get a little bit more intimate. So here it goes. I've been in marketing for over 6 years now, and I've always worked in the tech for good sector. I was very lucky to move to New York in my early 20s, and that's where I started my career. I worked for a number of shared mobility startups, so street furniture, bike shares, smart scooters, all that sort of things, and companies similar to Uber. And I predominantly focused on growth hacking, community building, and digital storytelling. I moved back to the UK in 2017, which for reasons we'll not go into, but it's a good story and one better to be shared over a pint. And when I came back, I joined Google, where I ran a number of for good campaigns that encouraged a global community of local guides to help others navigate the world by adding user-generated content to Google Maps. Following that, I then joined the amazing team here at Charity Digital, which was last March. I do keep saying I'm a bit of a newbie, but in reality, I've been here 10 months now, so I can't get away with that much longer. And my main focus here is sort of running our client-led campaigns, increasing and improving our content portfolio and output, and sort of helping navigate our own digital transformation. Transformation is something that we're all in together when it comes to, and we all need to sort of lean on each other and tell each other stories and pull together as we all go through that Be More Digital phase. Outside of work, I'm a big climate change advocate, and I was incredibly lucky to join a great organisation called the 2041 Foundation. And I went to Antarctica as part of a storytelling expedition back in 2016. An incredible experience that it was both beautiful, surreal, and absolutely terrifying at the same time. And I was even luckier when I came back from there to present some of the stories that I'd helped sort of curate while I was out there as part of a panel, the Sharing Responsibility for the Planet panel at the United Nations. So I've been incredibly lucky from that standpoint. And then the rest of my time is spent blindly following Newcastle United, but I'm not going to bore you with that. We all have our cross to bear. Anyways, all that has kind of led me here to this very point, another charity digital webinar day, and that's what we're all here for. So let's get started in that. Excuse me, I've lost functionality to change. There we go. So yes, big welcome to our first webinar of 2020, and what better way to kick us off with a look at the year ahead. Last decade was arguably one of the world's most innovative. It gave birth to crowdfunding, social video platforms like Snapchat, virtual reality as a marketing tool, online streaming, and everything you could desire at the click of a mouse. Looking at the list makes it hard to believe that this year could offer more. But to my last point about everything you could desire at the click of a mouse, a quick Google search suggests 2020 has a lot in store for us from a digital standpoint. In my research for this webinar, I came across as many as 50 tech trends for 2020. But we've diluted this down to the 5 we believe most relevant to charities. So what we'll be looking at today. First on the list is customer multi-experience. And what I mean by that is how can we use multiple touch points to reach all our users in the right place at the right time. The next, we'll sort of deep dive into the importance of digital culture. And this is something we've actually been talking about quite a lot in our articles recently. We'll be focusing on embedding culture into your digital strategy, and how not doing this really does set you up to fail when it comes to digital transformation. Next is 2020 really does need to be rebuilding donor trust and charity transparency. This is a big one for charities, and it's something we've already seen happen this month with the Australian Red Cross, which we'll dive into a bit later on. But it's undoubtedly that 2020 does need to be rebuilding donor trust. And I do believe that the onus is on us as charities to start doing that. Fourth on the list is artificial intelligence. 2020 is finally set to be the year that AI does fully integrate into business as usual, and is a big topic on our agenda for this year. We'll be talking about how charities are making AI work already and looking at some of the barriers to entry for smaller organizations. Lastly, the stats around personalization show that it really does resonate with users. And we'll be diving into how do we take it beyond the hey at first name at, that hey Chris or hey Mimi or hey Zoe that you get in your email. And as usual, we'll be rounding things up at the end with an opportunity for you all to put me on the spot in our Q&A. As I've already asked once, do please be kind. So let's dive in. First up on our list of 2020 trends is customer experience. With so many companies and organizations making it a priority to transform their customer experience, any charity not thinking about customer experience is at risk of being left behind. Research suggests that organizations with a stellar digital customer experience can command up to 25% more engagement from their users. On the other hand, however, a poor customer experience can lose organizations' customers. Over 33% of customers would consider switching to a competitor after just one poor, bad instance or bad experience. So that kind of adds the credence that customer experience has become so important that even researchers are predicting it will become the top competitive differentiator among companies and organizations alike. And it's already proven amongst charities to drive more donations and build brand trust. So how can we as charities build better customer experiences? The first thing charities can do is look forward. And it sounds quite plain, and I can all hear you kind of saying, what do you really mean by that? Well, doubling down on customer experience is a leap of faith. It can be resource intensive, and there are a lot of risks if done wrong. Recession, increased competition are just a few that can be named. The trick here, and it sounds really easy, is not to do it wrong. Easier said than done again, but and that probably is true. But the donor landscape is changing. And the move to a customer-first model involves more than any single initiative or technology can accomplish. It actually requires a fundamental shift in strategy. It requires investment in people and culture, and it needs to be supported by the right tools and processes. Again, so what does that mean? It means keeping your users at the core of every strategic decision, from social media to a CRM platform, or integration of a CRM platform, from customer service to your brand and your brand voice. It's about constantly asking the question, how will this impact the end user? Likewise, invest in the best possible people for the job. And that could mean training staff you already have, or recruiting from the right talent pools, or even leveraging the massive networks of volunteers that are out there. Again, it sounds simple, but it is often an underutilized asset of the sector. Now, we can hire customer experience specialists from the top tech brass. For me, this is something I don't think the sector does enough. And more workers are pushing for cross-sector moves due to some of the ethical issues surrounding major tech companies, and charities can really take advantage of that. Now, a really good, clear, defined strategy, clear goals, and a plan to get there is an attractive proposition to potential employees. And if hiring isn't an option, leverage other options. So partner with organisations who provide these expertise. We talk a lot about Data Kind UK, who are well known with providing expertise on data projects, and we'll be highlighting one of their projects later on in the webinar. Similarly, you can tap into big tech for good teams. A couple that spring to mind straight away are in conversations we've had are Microsoft's data scientists, who actually will be joining us in a few weeks' time for a webinar. And AWS also have cloud experts that, as charities, we can tap into those resources and take projects to, and hopefully build and nurture some new initiatives. Next is, one way to provide a good customer experience is to be content driven. Generally, opinion is that, we as users or, donors, we all have short attention spans. But personally, I think it's rubbish. I think that's all rubbish. We are creatures of binge. We binge Netflix shows, we binge podcasts, and we binge content from our favorite brands, excuse me, too many R's. And why do we do that? It's because we love their content. And here's how they do it to us. First of all, they know us. Learning about your audience is essentially split into two parts: data and personalization. We will circle back to personalization a bit later on in the webinar. But proper data collection and optimization allows us to understand users' engagement habits and informs us of what we are doing right and doing wrong in pursuit of great customer experience. Metrics like sentiment, time viewed, for an article example, and drop-off rate from a podcast or video are surpassing old metrics like reads and clicks, and they give us a deeper engagement and they give us deeper engagement metrics and a much better understanding of how to improve on or amend a customer experience strategy. The next on the list is sort of be diverse and accessible in your content creation. Diversity is important for keeping audiences engaged, and it doesn't have to include reinventing new content all the time. Sharing news across different formats is key. I've got an example here from Cancer Research UK's 2019 Legacies campaign, where they leveraged a bunch of different channels. They used TV adverts, YouTube, and social media. And importantly, the TV adverts reached target audiences who are typically not on social media, and are likely older than average social media. So by understanding your audience a little bit more and using that data, that can then inform the different levels of content and the multiple touch points that you need to reach donors or users from. Likewise, make sure your content is available to everyone. So many organizations these days are still failing to meet the requirements of web content accessibility guidelines. Charities actually have a legal and moral responsibility to be meeting these standards online, and we can expect a big crackdown in 2020. We'll actually be running a session about this at our conference in March, which will cover everything about how you can improve your digital footprint from an accessibility point of view. Another way to create compelling content and a benefit it can have is put time into SEO. Research shows that 95% of people do not click beyond the first page of their searches in Google or any search engine. And search engine optimization, or SEO, is about making the best use of charity websites and market channels. Charities can strategize search terms they want to rank for on Google in the form of keywords. So these words can then be threaded into page titles, body text, URLs, meta tags, file pages, image tags, and anchor links. And by building up keywords into digital content, website or blog pages can move up towards the first page of Google search, making your charity much more discoverable to its users and potential donors. And the last one is use partners. For me, I've kind of always had the ethos that partnerships make the world go round. By spreading your message or having other people spread your message, you reach users that you potentially couldn't reach. In a sector, we should be all about cooperation, not competition in that sense. And charity collaborations can create really powerful brand combinations. Good example I found was Movember, who partnered with Mr. Porter, the luxury sales website. Mr. Porter helped launch both content and fundraising for the cause as part of the Health and Mind online magazine. The content would focus on health and well-being, as well as encourage donations for the Health and Mind Fund. And it catered to high-end fashion consumers. The Mr. Porter site also supported Movember through online sales of limited edition designer t-shirts, with all the proceeds going to the cause. So a great example of how charity and company collaborated for a really strong fundraising campaign. And this can be done at any level. That example is obviously quite a big charity with quite a big brand, but don't be afraid to start small and casting it quite far and wide when looking at partners. It's not only about creating killer content, but it's also about delivering new experiences as well. 2020 chucks forward a host of new and existing content types that are expected to impact the way we deliver experiences in a huge way. The first one I came to is video marketing. And for me, video marketing, it's a bit like electric cars. It's been talked about a lot, but it's yet to be really fully adopted. But still, video marketing is touted to be one of, if not the most important marketing trends today, and it will likely be for the next 5 to 10 years. 70% of consumers say that they have shared a brand's video, and over half of users say that watching video makes them more confident in decision making when it's in sort of purchase or donation decision making. And don't just think YouTube when you hear video. There are also plenty of other ways to drive higher engagement in your video marketing. You can make a video post or start a live broadcast on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and Twitter as well, of course. One of the issues that marketers have faced in recent years is the growing shift in mobile devices. Those long-form acquisition pages and emails of yesteryear are fading quickly because they're simply too difficult to read on small mobile screens. However, video can present the same information in a format that works perfectly, regardless of device. It's widely thought that if your site includes videos, it's 50 times more likely, yes, 50 times more likely to drive organic search results compared to text. Why is this? Because people find video content more compelling. So Google pushes pages that include videos with higher in their rankings. Again, kind of falls back onto we are creatures of binge. One of the things about video, though, is that it makes it easy to reformat your content. So imagine a scenario where you've just recorded a video for your YouTube channel. Instead of just publishing it on YouTube, you could also get it transcribed, so you have a text version. You could publish the transcription on your blog. You could update the raw video with the transcription as subtitles to Facebook. You could turn that transcription into a standalone blog article. You could rip the audio from it and use it as a podcast. Or you can even use the video thumbnails in your email marketing campaigns with the word video and subject lines, which research suggests has improved open rates by 19%. Opportunities are quite endless with video, and it's something we don't do enough of as a sector. Excuse me. Next up is voice marketing. So the increase in use of voice search has made it important for organizations to rethink their digital marketing strategies in 2020. 72% of people who own a voice activated speakers, so that's something like Google Home or Alexa, they say that their devices are used as part of their daily routines. And many brands are already including voice search in their digital marketing strategies in 2020 as a way to deliver value-based content effectively to their users. The NSPCC actually did become an early adopter of this back in 2018, where they used the voice recognition technology through Amazon Alexa to boost donations. Alexa owner donors could simply say, Alexa, open NSPCC to donate, and the money was then taken from users' Amazon account and sent to the charity via Amazon Pay. So voice search is expected, these the likes of Alexa and Google Home are expected to follow the same way of podcasts. So expanding from pure audio content to include advertisements, and here's a word from our sponsors, which paves the way for a whole new level of SEO in the form of voice search. So as if you want to start considering this in 2020, start thinking about conversational tones and keywords that people speak and not read. Third on the list of new experiences to look forward to this year is, we kind of crossed over this in the last decade, but I expect to see more of this going forward, and that's social media stories. First, we had Snapchat, which came out with the concept of My Story. Then Instagram and Facebook stories were introduced. Now we have TikTok, brand new platform as well, and YouTube have unveiled their own story format called Reels. Stories are a great way to engage in quick, intimate experience with your audiences. And they're well known for increasing brand awareness, increased website views, and they do create constant engagement with followers. Charities can make the most of stories by using polls within Instagram stories, add links to social media stories, take advantage of geo-filters. I know Snapchat's really popular with that one. Add location tags. So if you're in an event, or you're creating some authentic content on TikTok from your office, let people know where you are, and people who are in a similar location can find it easily. Add mentions for other brands and your fans, so that's that tailors into partnerships as well. So using mentions, the @ and hashtags really does help involve your partners and maximize your reach as well. So you're then mushroom clouding into their audience. Give live video a try when creating stories as well. Live video is something that, again, it is underutilized, and it's something that will take time to build a rapport with your audience. So it's important to remember, not to give up after one attempt. Keep pushing. There is still an issue of an issue. There's still a resemblance of frequency and repetition in marketing. I don't think that's died out quite yet. So make sure to keep giving things a try. And always invite followers to explore with clear call to actions. Again, that's super important. Have clear, concise message and a clear action for a user to follow to make it more journey-like. And I also want to give an honourable mention to something that I can't find a great deal of information about yet, but I think it's an interesting one, and that's visual search. It does remain to be seen how it can be used ethically, I think, from a charity standpoint, as well as efficiently. Visual search does offer a complete new user experience, and takes UX and customer experience to a new level. Essentially, it allows people to upload an image to conduct a search and get more specific results. So I was trying to put this in a charity context. So I imagine it kind of, you're an injured animal. You could take a photo, upload it, and you'd be connected to, say it's a dog, you'd be connected to Battersea Dogs and Cats Home or something similar like that. Pinterest and Google are they've already kind of started this game, and they have seen an astronomical amount of search hits since launching beta testing. I think it was 600,000 in the first few weeks. It's certainly one to watch. It's not something I think we should be jumping on now, but if you are really advanced and really far down in customer experience and user journeys, then I would take a look at it. So point 2 on our trends to watch in 2020 is a focus on culture as part of your digital strategy. Last year's Charity Digital Skills Report examined how charities are using digital. It found that 52% of charities don't have a digital strategy. And it also found that 56% of charities have concerns about how to fund a digital transformation. And 68% of charities rate their board's digital skills as low or needing improvement. At the heart of every digital strategy lies people and the culture you create in the work environment. Culture can kill transformation unless culture itself is transformed. 2020 proves to be the year of digital transformation, and I don't think we can hide from that anymore. And trends suggest those not placing culture at the very heart of their digital transformation are setting themselves up for failure. Our good friends at Trillium actually summed this up and how you can do this in 4 key steps. So the first one is communication is key. Lack of communication can derail your transformation program. So share as much detail as you can with your organization. But the real challenge here is knowing your audience and using it to your advantage. So engaging different people is completely different. So engaging your board is different to updating your employees, for an example. So you need to communicate the right message to the right people at the right time. Not too dissimilar for how you want to connect with users in that sense. But it is recommended that you do need a strong internal communication plans to ensure engagement with all your digital transformation program internally at every level. Point 2, change is inevitable. We're in the middle of the 4th industrial revolution, which means that new technology is being introduced all the time. Change is therefore inevitable. Sort of Mr. Anderson in the Matrix style. And organizations in every sector must be adaptable. The charity sector be no different. Membership organizations and charities alike find change especially challenging. It's an issue we encounter with a lot of charities that we speak to and a lot of our audience as well. Hence why we're running our Be More Digital conference this year. Not only are charities changing systems and processes, but they're also changing culture. Organizational culture plays a much bigger part in the transformation journey than technology does, and this culture change has to be driven from the top down. So step 3 is don't overpromise. That age-old saying, overpromise, underdeliver. When planning a digital transformation program, it's essential to really set attainable, realistic goals. You want to deliver immediate benefit to your donors and beneficiaries and your board. You want to keep everyone happy, but that can often lead to overpromising and underdelivering. An effective approach to mitigate this risk is delivering in a series of short duration activities that will generate regular and rapid results. Point 4, you can't do it alone. Even if you have the most skilled tech and digital team, you can't go through digital transformation alone. You need external partners with you on the journey. A great digital partner will challenge your thinking, help you to navigate some of the box, and support you in securing buy-in from your stakeholders. And we kind of touched on partnerships already from a marketing point of view, but it is, for me, it makes the world go round, as I already said. So it is crucial, I think, at every level of organization. We can, what we'll do after the webinar is also share, Trillium's ebook on this goes into much more detail. So we'll share that with you as well as part of the resources. So next up is, third on a list of digital trends to dominate 2020 is rebuilding donor trust. It's been quite a difficult decade for charity fundraising. The sector has seen a decrease in donations from the UK public following, a reasonably extensive period of scandals. And while not all are to blame as a sector, we do all feel the effect. According to CAF's 2019 report on the charity landscape, only 48% of donors believe charities are trustworthy. And 2020 shapes to be the year that, we earn some of that trust back. I already alluded to it, but as recently as this month, the sector's validity has already been called into action. As I'm sure you've all seen with the Australian Red Cross having to defend spending 10% of bushfire donations to cover overhead. While this is completely acceptable, questions were raised in this instance due to a lack of spending transparency at the ask point. And, they have a long-standing brand promise from to share 100% of funds raised for their chosen cause. A promise all their users were all too familiar with, so it wasn't surprising that the 10% came as a bit of a shock. Yeah, it wasn't until after donations were collected that they shared their need to hold some of that back. And that's where the breakdown in trust between donor and charity occurred. So how can we rebuild? Well, as charities, I think it's all on us in the way we communicate to donors. One way to build trust from the outset is through authentic digital storytelling. According to Blackboard, millennials donated 2.7 billion to charities in 2019, making them the largest donor cohort in the country. Other research by the Charity Commission shows that millennials value trust above all else, and their relationship with charities is embedded in their online experience. Millennials are most likely to scrutinize social media before giving. Blackboard found that 39% of them and Gen Z find information on charities through social media, compared to just 9% for their baby boomer parents. Charities focusing their efforts on the digital native generation need to remember the power of social media to show impact and demonstrate outcomes. You know, as charities, our greatest assets are the stories we have to tell. And, you know, from video marketing to virtual reality, there have never been more means and ways of getting our messages out there. You know, there's more than ever these days. You know, another friend of ours, Superhighways, also has a great ebook that goes into more detail of some of the tools and approaches that charities can take to telling you really good, authentic stories and drive their impact online. Again, we'll share that with you afterwards. And I guess the next and what's more important, I think, for me is transparency. As I already said, as charities, I believe the onus is on us to share exactly what we're doing with funds. We can't make the assumption that everybody knows that we need to cover costs. And as important it is to say that 100% of our donations are going to a specific cause, it's equally as important to say when this is changing, or it is equally important to share how the remaining percentage is being spent. And charities can build this into the campaigns and comm strategies that they have. You know, this will add authenticity to your brand. It'll take it'll take donors on a full journey and build longevity. What I mean by full journey is, you know, they will understand the journey of their pound. They'll know exactly where it's going and how it's being spent, and it helps build a bigger connection with them and drives longevity and donations through that build trust. So an organisation who are actually amazing at doing this, and I'm a bit biased to them because I'm quite a big fan, are Charity Water. For more than a decade, Charity Water has been bringing clean and safe drinking water to millions of people across tens of thousands of projects around the world. In 2016, the US-based charity also began its operations in the UK. You know, Charity Water has a unique approach to VR, which has brought a different perspective to digital fundraising and awareness. I was actually fortunate enough to take part in their VR journey at an event a few years back when I was living in New York, and it was some pretty powerful stuff. You put on the headset, you follow a 13-year-old girl called Salam, who tells audiences of a daily expedition to collect dirty water infested with leeches. She invites people into her life by describing how her mother died and how she's now one of the main caregivers for her family. As the journey to water takes so long, Salam often misses school, despite knowing that education can bring her a better future. Really is powerful stuff, and it does induce donations at the time, and you really feel immersed in this poor girl's journey and life story. And they add to this incredible talent for storytelling by often promoting their own 100% model, which I've linked to on the screen, and again we'll share with you afterwards. They're super transparent about how they secure income for their overhead, and you often see it in their communications. They rely on a small group of dedicated donors and some angel investment to cover their bills and fees, which allows 100% of donations to fund clean water initiatives. They even do this for credit card fee transactions and other things. All their donation is readily available. All their donation information, is readily available on their website. Anyone can see it, and as I already said, you regularly see it in sort of their campaigns and communications that they put out. It's a kind of a good example to follow. Up next, and this is a biggie because it's touted as a bit of a buzzword, and it's a big trend for 2020: artificial intelligence. AI may be one of the most sort of disruptive technology seen in a long time, but one thing is for certain: it is here to stay. and 41% of businesses are already using AI as part of their businesses, as part of their business as usual. And that's expected to rise this year. So that begs the question, which I see you're already answering. Would you consider using AI in your charity? As we're waiting for results to come in, it's worth noting that AI has been studied since the 1950s, when the fathers of the field, Minsky and McCarthy, described artificial intelligence as many tasks performed by a program or a machine that, if a human carried out the same activity, we would say the human had to apply intelligence to complete this task. Now AI is firmly out of the realms of science fiction or academic theory, and will affect charities in a wide range of ways, from automation and data analysis to reporting and governance. So let's take a look at the results. I'm actually quite surprised by those, and it's great to see that quite a large amount of charities are really already considering this in the future. And to those that still not sure, I'm really surprised we've never seen a never, which means the need, the adoption is there. Things are changing, exactly. And for those of you who are still not sure, I'm hoping I can sort of address some of the misconceptions that we have. Well, I think there's still some worthwhile questions that we need to ask, but I'm hoping to sort of address some of those questions now. We actually did run these on a recent podcast with Microsoft that you can go check out as well. We'll include that in our resources afterwards. So first up is that AI is a fad. The rate of the technological process in digital over the last decade or so means that new technologies are constantly appearing. And when they start to become mainstream, there's often a huge amount of hype around them, and AI is no different. Many of them make bold promises only to fall flat on their expectations. And it's easy to believe that with AI. It's probably the most hyped technology of all time. And it's just another buzzword. It's just, it's something that's going to die out. But it's not. AI and machine learning represent a whole new way of humans interacting with and using computers. Put very simply, it's the way that a computer system can carry out tasks and learn by itself without being explicitly programmed to do so. This is very much the start. Some experts are saying that the impact of AI will be bigger than that of the internet. And AI is part of, it is an integral part of the fourth industrial revolution. Second sort of query that you hear a lot around AI is that it's coming for our jobs. In 2019, the perfect storm of advanced AI programming, exponentially improving computer power and the cloud, together with the massive amount of data being generated and now available to train AI algorithms, mean that AI is finally becoming a useful everyday reality in almost every field and industry. Our sector, charity sector, will be in no way an exception to that. But, and I say this in quotation marks, the robots taking over myth is a difficult one to shake, and I think we can find mainstream movies, thank mainstream movies for that. There is a common fear that AI could make human workers obsolete, with automation cited as a risk to various industries. The estimations on the number of jobs it could replace in the workforce seems to be rising all the time, but there's actually very little empirical evidence for this, and it's certainly not that simple. AI is hugely exciting possibilities for charities, from new ways to deliver services and information to philanthropy, research, and translation. AI programs are designed to make tasks involving complex data far easier and quicker, and this is likely to change many jobs. But as experts from MIT argue, it won't take them away completely. Humans will still be needed to work the jobs that machines can't. The automation of routine tasks using AI to enhance and augment the work that we find most difficult and leaves us to focus on what we do best. We drive innovation, think creatively, and make human-to-human connections that an AI cannot. Job losses are inevitable. New ones involving job losses are not inevitable, sorry.
You make it big enough?
Yeah, job losses are not inevitable. New ones involving the management of AI are. This is especially the case in the charity sector, which revolves around human compassion, empathy, and communication. So not so much to fear there. The third one, and quite a relevant one, is it's unethical. And yes, Dystopian visions of the robot uprising tend to loom large in people's minds. Scientists and technologies like Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk have made dramatic warnings about the long-term risks of building machines that are potentially cleverer than us. But we are a long way from creating AI machines that are able to perform any tasks that a human can, if that will ever be achieved at all. AI, like all technologies, is entirely neutral. It's just a tool, and it's up to the people programming and using it to ensure ethical safeguards are in place. As users of AI, it's important to be aware of the risks involved with letting computers make decisions. Charities especially have a key role to play in ensuring that human biases and prejudice are not unintentionally programmed into computer systems that don't know any better. It's the responsibilities of the sector to ensure that the use of AI decision-making is fair, inclusive, and transparent to the people it affects. Oops, skipped ahead there, sorry. 4, it's too expensive, not for small charities. The cloud is opening up whole new worlds of compute capability for organizations of all kinds, with the ability to take advantage of resources they could never have in-house. This has led to the uprise of AI as a service product, with companies jumping on the market appetite for out-of-the-box AI that anyone can plug in and start benefiting from. As a result, AI tools are becoming more accessible for organizations of all sizes and budgets. Most major vendors now have AI tools that organizations can take advantage of. Microsoft, for example, has a number of AI products and capabilities built into its apps, from personal assistants and chatbots to machine learning and analytics tools. Salesforce similarly have a built-in analytics capabilities within its CRM platform, giving non-profit organizations the ability to dig deeper into their data to discover trends, predict outcomes, and get a clear understanding of their impact. AWS also have a wide range of machine learning services and apps. Excuse me, just having a drink of water. Small charities are also making the most of AI with the help of others. Again, leaning on that partnership trend. We ran a story last month about the Welcome Centre, an independent food bank in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire, who was using AI to illuminate whole new paths to service delivery for people in crisis. Thanks to their collaboration with DataKind, the Welcome Centre was able to design an early intervention program that recognised the signs of dependency and let them step in with the most appropriate advice, guidance, and support before things started to spiral. Essentially, I've included the link to the video here, which we'll send out. Essentially, what they do is collect visitor data and correlate that with the level of support needed to create a user-centric tool that flags visitors to the centre as in need of care before they ask or before it's even too late. And this is a model that was through the ability of partnership was relatively easy to pull together, and something that that has great potential to be replicated by other food banks, as well as in settings where a similar problem occurs. Small charities undoubtedly face a tough economic and political climate with no end of obstacles. But with the arrival of AI rapidly making its way into the mainstream, there are also, there's fantastic opportunity there as well for small, medium, large organizations to make the most of it. This idea of democratization is the idea that tech and resources, once considered just for an elite few, or the super majors, are filtering down to become affordable and accessible for everyone. And artificial intelligence is now in that phase as well. I do expect to see more of these stories like the Welcome Centre popping up in 2020, and I'm hoping it's going to be one of you lot listening today. So into the last one, marketing is all about building emotional connections, and there's no better way to do that than personalized, tailored messaging. Donors want to feel that their donations are personally meaningful to them and have real impact. Personalization in charity communications has shown to have a huge effect on fundraising. 44% of donors told Essentia in 2017 that they would be willing to donate up to 10% more for a personalized experience. And that number increases to 62% for millennials. And as we stare into 2020, more recent surveys suggest that 63% of consumers are highly annoyed with generic advertising blasts. A further 80% say they are more likely to do business with a company if it offers personalized experience. And 90% claim they find personalization appealing. It is truly an attractive tool for any charity to have in its marketing arsenal. But as a concept, like donor behavior, it's evolving. As I mentioned earlier, the @ first name @ or hey Chris or hey Mimi on an email won't quite cut it in 2020. I did see this analogy that I have on the screen there and found it quite funny. In 2020, organizations will have to be more like a waiter. You'll have to know your taste and make the right recommendations when needed, but should be invisible when not. And when I say that half jokingly, there's actually quite a lot to take away from that. And we can put more of that forward as they look to be more personal in 2020. So how do we do this? As with many things coming up in the next decade, it's all about data. Charities shouldn't underestimate the power of knowing their audiences. They should do homework on their charitable audience, demographics, most frequently used social media channels, likes, dislikes, age, the list is endless. Using available data on audiences to build a persona can help create a special connection with audiences and ensure you're only feeding them the content that is most relevant to them at the right time. Pulling all the information gathered from charity websites, social media profiles, and demographics helps charities build a marketing persona. And the marketing persona can be used in fundraising efforts to appeal to donors. Personas can also be refined over time to target specific donation categories as well. Strategically, having marketing personas for your potential donors and supporters can make it easier for charities to gauge how donors will react to certain marketing campaigns and feed the right campaign to the right person at the right time, a familiar theme. Similarly, ask your audience for what data you want to collect. In this day and age, people are more than happy to give a little information when engaging with brands. Don't be afraid to ask for that data that can help you provide them with a better experience. Be it interests for tailored content, phone numbers for text notifications. So if any of you give blood, blood.co.uk do an amazing job of that, letting you know the full journey. Or even location sharing to let them know about your local projects if you're a community charity. That they can get involved in. Another point of how we do it is creativity. And data might make personalization possible, but it's creativity that makes it successful. A great recent example was the British Heart Foundation, which experimented with innovative ideas in outreach with the help of a video campaign expert, Echo Mini, to produce a personalized campaign video for fundraisers on Just Giving. The campaign, based around the London to Brighton bike ride, used information from fundraisers Just Giving public profile data, dynamically embedding information such as photos, target donations into videos, so that each one was unique to the fundraisers. This personal touch resulted in a 14% increase in donations. Personalized video is a fantastic tool. It merges the video marketing and the personalization things brilliantly. But for smaller charities, there are more cost-effective ways to reach out and tell a personalized story. Again, one of the most cost-effective ways of maximizing a limited budget is something we've already talked about: social media and social media stories. So Wood Green Animal Charity made the most of its followers' content by asking for their own stories of pet adoption and including them in a personalized Instagram story with their new pet's name. Lastly, good personalization journeys take patience, testing, and iterating. And we've kind of come full circle. Like customer experience, where we started, use the data from personalized content to inform how you take it forward. And only by constantly changing and adapting and evolving can we keep up with the user. And that's what it's all about. So that's all from me. I think I've talked for a long time.
Yeah, you've done well.
Thank you very much for your patience. And I guess it's over to you for question time.
Yeah, so we've had quite a few questions come through, which is great. But if anyone else wants to get some in before we end, just submit them through the Q&A button. It's just so that I don't lose them as I'm reading them out, if that's possible. We have a good one to kick us off actually from Susan, which I think is quite close to our heart. Okay. Susan's asking, what standard of video passes as a good video content?
That is a really good question, and it is sort of an internal struggle and battle we have here. It depends on your channel, Susan, to be honest. I think depending on where you want to put it will depend on the level of quality. For social, for example, I don't know if you saw mine about an hour before I went live on the webinar. There's some level of realism about a handheld video and talking into that. It does make it, to touch on that personalization point, you do get a lot of that for sort of, face-to-face interaction. It feels like you're directly talking to someone. But if you're looking for something that you want to push out that's a bit longer on YouTube, maybe 5-6 minutes, I would look to get it more professionally done. And you want to spend a bit of time and really think about the style, what you're trying to get across, the goal, what you want to get out of it as well. It's it works. A lot of YouTube videos that are done at more professional standard can be cut up and shared on social media, but it doesn't really always work the other way around. So I would have, different strategies. And to be honest, we are going through the same strategy at the minute where, we want to be doing a lot more video content this year and figuring out exactly, how we want to go ahead and from that standard of quality. Has been a big question, so that is a good one. But yeah, I would really focus on what you want it to be. What's your goal? What do you want to get from it? Who's your audience? Sorry, and where you want to distribute. What channels you want to distribute it through? Sorry, so yeah, social media for something a bit more personal and a bit more, a phone would do that. YouTube a bit more creative. There's more than that now as well. I could talk for ages.
Loads, yeah.
TikTok, authenticity, but yeah, keep an eye on Charity Digital, and we'll be pushing a lot of content out about that this year.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think you probably have all heard today, you may have heard a couple of doors closing, a couple of footsteps, because we are just in one of our offices trying to make this webinar work. So we are with you on that journey. You've also asked, Susan, about what the chances are of getting an NSPCC or Alexa partnership if you're a local charity. Chris, I'm not sure if that is something you can answer, or...
Yeah, I don't know the in-depth details of how to get a partnership with Alexa or how that partnership was created. But from my experience of making partnerships, it doesn't always have to be, that big grandiose partnership. I don't know what charity you're from at the same time, Susan, but there's other options out there. There's other companies that are making these sort of voice tech systems as well. So look to leverage what you think you can that's around you in your own community, and see how and when you can get how we can leverage again what you can, and it's spreading it far and wide. I know it takes time, but it's ask a lot of people, meetings, get connections. I think that's quite important. Sorry, I'll try and come with a better answer.
No, I think that was quite good. I do think, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you and Caroline talk about this with Comic Relief?
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit, and we could potentially pass that video out afterwards. Yeah, I think we had a similar question there about how, the value of celebrity endorsement, and I think endorsement is valuable at every level. It just depends, you have to find that right level for you and the right people, because there's, influencers range from, 2,000 followers to 22 million followers. So there is ways and means. It just takes a lot of groundwork.
Yeah, so we will share that with you afterwards. Next question we've got is from Jane. Jane said they stopped creating a digital strategy because they're finding it was actually sorry, I'm trying to read this from a distance, was actually endangering the overreacting communication strategy. So is it worth keeping a digital strategy and a communication strategy separate? Or
that's a good question, and his very simple answer is they should all be the same strategy for me. Communication, marketing, all forms of digital strategy and are not separate strategies in that sense. Kind of like, a bit of an umbrella strategy. Overarching, it's all about, digital these days. So how you have to incorporate communication and marketing as part of that. We have a great ebook actually called 7 Steps to Creating a Digital Strategy.
Yes.
And we'll include that in our resources, because that gives you a much better insight into how you go about doing that. But in a very simple answer, it should all be the same strategy.
We also have a podcast.
We do.
We do. Lovely. Thank you, Jane. And we have an anonymous question here. I'm not sure how you're going to be able to answer it, but I'm going to give it to you.
I shall try my best.
You mentioned legal responsibilities to conform with web content accessibility guidelines earlier. Could you expand on this?
Yes. So I think it's been about 10 years now that the website content accessibility guidelines have been in place. It was reviewed in 2018. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but yes, there's sort of, again, a bit like GDPR, there's sort of guidelines in place that charities should be meeting, and it's roughly about only 50%. I can't profess to be an expert in this area, to be honest. But what we will do is there's a lot of information. We have a great article about it on our website, which we'll share afterwards. And if you can get along to our conference, because we have Bertie Bosredon, who's a charity consultant and humanity and inclusion, doing a huge talk about it there. So I would highly recommend that if you can make it and take advantage of the travel bursary.
Brilliant. Okay, so we have a couple of questions here on AI. We're asking for some examples here of how small charities can use it, essentially. How can they benefit from it?
Yeah, and I think the Welcome Centre was the best example of that. The one we kind of talked about. They are a really small charity in Huddersfield, and they leveraged the expertise of DataKind to create this program that, you know, sort of preempted when visitors of the soup kitchen and needed help, essentially. And that was, they built this tool in the back end where it would record number of instances, and basically when more people came in, that was a sort of red flag to see that, you know, that particular person was in need of more help and support. Again, we had the slides will be coming out, and the link to the video is on there, so I recommend taking a look at that. But yeah, there's also a lot of other ways as well. So we have a webinar coming up with Microsoft in a few weeks' time, who their data scientists will be telling, you know, sharing their stories of how they've worked with different size charities, and also explain how they're available to other charities. So there's a big AI sort of tech for good volunteering program that Microsoft run, that, you know, charities can access their data scientists for specific projects and get help. So these tools do exist. And again, we mentioned out of the box tools as well. So there's a lot of, I think we mentioned Microsoft does have one, AWS, Salesforce, that, you know, charities can start running in their charities.
How about like fundraising AI? How would people kind of look into that if they wanted to? We've just had Susan pop in with another question. I'm loving it, Susan. Thank you.
Fundraising, I guess that talks more to Salesforce's example. So Pardot is Salesforce's marketing automation tool, where, you know, it does all the sort of customer learning for you, and you can go in there and individually build journeys based on, you know, specific actions. So you can set, for example, a webinar that you might run, you know, you'll send the email. If, you know, someone opens the email, they go to the next part of the journey, and you collect data based on that. So, you know, if someone, you know, we're a good example of this. So if, you know, if someone like yourself visited our site and we had the relevant software in place or AI in place, and you continuously only visited topics around fundraising, you know, we would start to learn that your interest was around fundraising. And this can translate into a way that, I'm trying to think of an example. So WWF is always one that springs quite quickly to mind for me, that, you know, that you can what's the word? You can adopt. You can adopt many animals from there, and say you're continuously looking at penguins, but, you know, you could choose from polar bears, pandas, tigers, yeah, lions, tigers, and bears. But you continuously look at penguins, then you know, the AI could learn that, you know, your interest is in penguins, and then you can shape your marketing to be more targeted in that sense. So you then start delivering campaigns to this person that are only about penguins, and then that, you know, being that targeted gives you, you know, a higher degree of opportunity to solicit the donation.
Brilliant. We are slowly running out of time, quickly even running out of time. So just like there's 2 questions left, so I would like to ask them. One's relating to data. So how do you recommend balancing data collection, personalization with the crackdown with cookies and consent?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Sorry, can you read again? How can you recommend
balancing data collection and creating personalization with the crackdown cookies and consent?
Yeah, I would start with data. It is all about data, and
get that in a row.
If you kind of, I always use the analogy sort of internally here. If you build a house on sand, it's not going to last. So make sure your data is in good working order, and then your personalization can be, you know, up to scratch from a GDPR point of view. And then when you embark on the personalization, you'll be starting, you know, on the front foot. again, we have, some good tools and resources for that as well. It would be great to, speak to someone like DataKind. Again, we have a big data stream in our conference if you can make it. I know I feel like I'm pushing that a lot, but these are a lot of topics that we are bringing top level expertise in to talk about. So yeah, data first, always be data first.
Lovely. And then final question from Nick, is there a model or draft template for a digital/communication strategy suitable for a small charity that we can recommend?
I don't know of one off the top of my head, Nick, but you've just given me a fantastic idea.
It is
for
a brilliant
piece of content.
Aidan, coming your way.
So watch this space. I'm just gonna say leave that one with us.
Lovely, thank you. I think that is everything. We have had a couple of people come back saying, can we recap on bits? The recording will be out within a week. So if Chris and I spoke too fast for you, we do apologise, but it will be available on the recording along with all the resources that Chris has mentioned. I will then wrap everything up now, if that's okay. I just got pointed to another question, actually. Let me see if I can do it. Oh, it's actually from our CEO, Jonathan. He has said that consent and transparency is important when you're collecting data. So do keep that in mind when you are doing so. So that's a note from Jonathan there. So yes, as mentioned, we'll be sending out a recording along with some additional resources within the week. So then you can come back, keep learning and share with your colleagues. Coming up next, we have got, we're releasing Digital Strategy Part 2 for our podcast. So everyone asking about digital strategy, if you haven't heard the first podcast yet, go and reach out on all your local providers and then you can be ready for Tuesday's release. And we are also bringing back Lightful for our next webinar on the 13th of February. One last request from us at Charity Digital is please do fill out the feedback form. I'll be sending one to you once we finish, and it helps us with everything. It helps us bring these webinars to you, make sure we're on the right page. And if we're not, tell us what we're doing wrong. We'd love to know. If you just don't want to hear us two on here again, brilliant.
Iteration.
But yeah, that's all from us. So thank you.
Thanks,
See you
everybody.
next time.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.